All right, so this video is going to go over Unit 3, Lesson 4, which is the lesson taught on Monday, November 9th. Writing the equation of a line when you're given 2 points. Okay, so our do now or investigation starts by asking us to graph the line that goes through the points 0, 1, and 4, 9. Okay, so 0, 1, 4, 9. Every point goes x, y. So we're going to go to 0 on the x-axis, up to 1 on the y. 4, 9. 4 on the x, up to 9 on the y. All right, now I can connect them and have my line just like that. All right, now usually we would label it, but we don't know the linear equation. But how can we determine the equation of the line only given those 2 points? We want to label this. We need to know the equation of a line. Remember, the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where we need the m and we need the b. Okay, so let's look at this. Well, we know the b. The b is where our line crosses the y-axis. So here's our y-axis. Our line is crossing it at 1. Also, we know from looking at the point, 0, 1, whenever the x is 0, whatever the y is, that's our y-intercept. So we know the b is 1. Let's find the m. Now, we would do rise over run, and we'll do that, and then I'll show you another way that we're going to do it today. So to get from this point to this point, we have to rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then run 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh boy. 8 over 4, that will simplify. If you do 8 divided by 4, you're going to get 2. That means that we probably could have done a slope triangle that was only, let's see, this would have been 4 over 2, and then even less, we could have done 2 over 1. But hey, we used the 2 points they gave us. Doesn't matter. Now let's plug in our m, which is 2, and plug in our b, which is 1, and we have our equation of a line. Okay, but our question today is how do you write the equation of a line when you have only the 2 points? We don't want to be graphing today. If you look through this lesson, we're not going to graph anymore after this warm-up today. So we have the points 0, 1, and 4, 9. So think, do you remember how to find the slope when you're given 2 points? Because we did that. We did that last week. So you can make a table. Put your points in 0, 1, and 4, 9. We're finding slope. Slope is change in y over change in x. Change in y over change in x. Same thing as rise over run. How do you get from 1 to 9? 1 plus 8 is 9. If you didn't know that, do 9 minus 1 and you'd get 8. How do you get from 0 to 4? 0 plus 4 is 4. Backwards. 4 minus the one before it. 4 minus 0 is 4. Okay, so our slope is change in y over change in x. Change in y is 8. Change in x is 4. Just like we did earlier with the rise over run, 8 over 4 is 2. So that's another way to find slope, and then you'd plug it in just like we did. So we're going to do that now, where we write the equation of a line from these 2 points by finding the slope from the 2 points, finding the y-intercept from the 2 points, and not graphing at all today. Okay, so let's look at our steps. Here's our formula for slope again. This is super important. Rise over run, that's how we do it, how we find slope from a graph. And then change in y over change in x is the way we're going to be finding slope when we have a table, which is what we're going to be making a lot of the time today. Okay, so first step, figure out the slope. Second step, figure out the y-intercept. Then you plug in your slope, plug in your y-intercept. These are the same steps that we've been doing for the previous lessons. You find the slope, you find the y-intercept, you plug them in, you have your equation of a line. Okay, exercise, determine the equation of a line given the 2 points that fall on the line. Okay, so let's find the m, find the b. Let's find the b first. Start off easy. The b is whenever the x is 0, the y-coordinate is going to be your b. So over here, I'm just going to write m and b. Our b is 8 because 0, 8, it's right there. All right, now let's find our slope. So to find slope, we can make a table. Where we put our points in, so 0, 8, and 2, 18. I don't know why my table is so long. All right. Change in y over change in x. How do you get from 8 to 18? If I'm not sure, I could go backwards. 18 minus 8, 10. 8 plus 10 is 18. How do I get from 0 to 2? I'm going up by 2. My change in y is 10. My change in x is 2. 10 over 2 is 5. My slope is 5. My b is 8. Let's plug them into our equation and be good. Right? Step 1, find the slope. Step 2, find the y-intercept. Step 3, plug in the m and the b. Plug in the 5 for m. Plug in the 8 for b. And we're done. Okay. B, find the slope, find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right here. Whenever x is 0, that other number, the y-coordinate, is the y-intercept. So the b is 5. To find the slope, we need to do change in y over change in x. For this one, instead of making a table, I'll show you the formula in case some of you prefer that. Change in y, you do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2, and then we subtract them. So you take the y2, the one in the back, the y in the back point, 17, minus the other y, going back to front, take the x number 2, so the 4, minus the x in the front, so minus 0. Okay, 17 minus 5 will give you 12. 4 minus 0 is 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. We have our slope, we have our y-intercept. Let's plug them into y equals mx plus b. Y equals 3x plus 5. Okay, so I'll alternate finding slope from the formula and finding slope from a table. See what you like better. All right, let's look at C. Find the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept is whenever x is 0, that other value is the y-intercept. So the b is 3. Now let's find the m. Change in y over change in x. Let's make a table. 0, 3, and 5, 2. To get from 3 to 2, I'm minusing 1. To get from 0 to 5, I have to add 5. My change in y is negative 1. My change in x is 5. My slope is negative 1 over 5. Y equals mx plus b. Plug in your m, which is negative 1 over 5. Leave your x. Add in your b, which here is positive 3. Okay, step 1, find the slope. Step 2, find the y-intercept. Plug in the y-intercept and plug in the slope. Okay, let's look at D. Let's find the slope and the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is going to be 10 because it's whenever the x is 0, that y-coordinate is your y-intercept. Let's find the slope now. So we'll do this by using the formula. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Change in y over change in x. So here's my x1, here's my y1, here's my x number 2, and here's my y number 2. So y number 2 is 4. Y number 1 is 10. 4 minus 10. Over x2, which is 3, minus the other x, going back to front, which is 0. 4 minus 10 is negative 6. 3 minus 0 is 3. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Our slope is negative 2. Our b is 10. Let's plug them in. Our m is negative 2, and our b is positive 10. Okay, let's look at E. Our m, whenever the x is 0, whatever the y is, that's your, find the b, the y-intercept, whatever the x is 0, whatever the y-coordinate is, that's your y-intercept. So our y-intercept is negative 2. To find our slope, let's make a table. 0, negative 2 is my first point, and then 10, comma 3 is my next point. All right, how do I get from negative 2 to 3? So negative 2 to 3, I'm going up because I'm going from negatives to positives. So I'm going up, I'm increasing by how much? So I'm increasing negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. I went up by 5. If that was confusing, you could always take the bottom one and minus the one on top. So 3 minus a negative 2 is 5, positive 5. How do I get from 0 to 10? Well, I add 10. Okay, so my slope is change in y over change in x. The change in y is 5. The change in x is 10. 5 ABC 10 simplifies to 1/2. We divide both the numerator and the denominator by 5. And lastly, plug into y equals mx plus b. Your m is 1/2. Your b is minus 2. All right, F. Slope and y-intercept. Our y-intercept is negative 1 because the y-coordinate is negative 1 when the x is 0. To find our slope, let's use the formula. This is x1, this is y1, this is x2, and this is y2. Our formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Change in y over change in x. It's the same thing. 2 minus a negative 1. Be careful with the negatives. The back one minus the front one. 4 minus 0. 2 minus a negative 1 is 3. 4 minus 0 is 4. Our slope is 3/4. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals 3/4 x, because that's our slope. Plug it in for m. Leave the x plus b. Our b is negative 1, so minus 1. Okay, let's look at G. Find our slope, find our y-intercept, plug them in. Our y-intercept is going to be negative 13. That's when the x is 0. The y is negative 13, so that's the b, the y-intercept. To find slope, let's make a table. Negative 3, negative 1 is the first point. 0, negative 13 is the next point. Okay, how do we get from negative 1 to negative 13? We're getting smaller. We're going deeper and deeper down that negative number line. We're going to the left if you drew a number line. We're getting smaller. How much are we getting smaller? Well, go into your calculator and do negative 13 minus a negative 1. Negative 13 minus negative 1. You're going to learn that we're minusing 12. Check it. Negative 1 minus 12 is negative 13. How do we get from negative 3 to 0? We're getting bigger. We're going up. We're going from negatives to 0 and then eventually positives. We're going up. So plus how much? Negative 3 plus 3 will give you 0. Not sure? Subtract. Bottom minus top. 0 minus a negative 3 would give you positive 3. Okay, so our slope is going to be change in y over change in x, so negative 12 over 3, which simplifies to negative 4. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals negative 4x minus 13. Okay, for h, our slope and our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is negative 6. Our slope, let's use the formula. Change in y over change in x. x1, y1, x number 2, y number 2. Okay, so let's subtract our y's first. So it's going to be, and sometimes this helps if you set it up kind of like this, so you don't forget to minus. So y2 would be negative 6 minus y1, which is a negative 21. x2 is 0 minus x1, which is a negative 5. Lots of negatives going on here. So put in your calculator negative 6 plus 21. Let's see, I'm going to use my calculator for that one. Negative 6 minus a negative 21. 15. 0 minus a negative 5. Same thing as 0 plus 5. 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Y equals mx plus b. Plug in your m, plug in your b. Our m is 3. Our b is negative 6. y equals 3x minus 6. Okay, and then we just have a challenge. Graph the line with the given characteristics. The line contains the point 2, 5, and 4, 9. 2, 5 would be right here. And then 4, 9. So the x is 4, the y is 9. Let's connect them. How can we determine the equation of a line if we were only given the 2 points mentioned above? Okay. So looking at this graph, we could find the slope and find the y-intercept. But let's do it without the graph first. I'm going to cover it up. Okay. Let's see. Our equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. Okay. Let's see. We don't know the m and we don't know the b. But we can find the m by using a table. So I'm just going to write off here. We need the m and we need the b. Okay. So one way to find the m is by using a table. Right? I forgot I was supposed to cover up the graph. All right. So let's put these in a table. To get from 5 to 9, you add 4. To get from 2 to 4, you add 2. Our slope is 4 over 2, which simplifies to 2. All right, but our y-intercept. So there's no point with an x of 0 here, so it's not just given to us this time, hence the challenge. But we can figure it out. We learned how to do that in a table by following the pattern. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? But go backwards. Instead of adding 2, if we minus 2, we would get that 0 for an x that we want. We're just kind of using the pattern in reverse. So instead of adding 4, we're going to go backwards by minusing 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. 0, 1, that works. 1 plus 4 is 5. 0 plus 2 is 2. It follows our pattern. So our y-intercept is 1. We figured it out by looking at the table going backwards. Okay. So now our equation of a line, y equals mx plus b. Our m is 2 and our b is 1. Now let's compare it to our graph. Our b is 1. We see that right here. It crosses at 1, the y-axis. And our slope, let's see. It looks to me like we'd have to rise 4 and run 2. And 4 over 2 is what we got. That simplifies to 2. Okay, so remember what we showed you about using like the pattern in the table to figure out what the y-intercept is. Okay, I'm also going to show you real quick another way that you could have done it. So we'll just write or. We had y equals mx plus b. Once you found out that the slope was 2, we could plug that in. And then we also could plug in an x and a y. So I'm just going to write our points again off to the side. They gave us 2, 5, and they gave us 4, 9. You can pick whichever x and y you want and plug them in as long as it's a matching pair. X and y can be multiple different numbers. It's any point that is on the line. So I'm going to use this one because it's smaller numbers. So let's plug in our 5 for y, our 2 for x, and now we can solve for b. So this is just another way to find b if you weren't happy with using the pattern in reverse in the table. And it's important to know because sometimes these numbers might be in like their 20s or 30s or 40s in the table, and it might be too hard to or too much work to go in reverse to get all the way to 0. So in that case, you could pick a point, pick an x and a y, plug them in, and plug in your slope also, right? So we're plugging in our slope of 2, we're plugging in our x of 2, we're plugging in our y of 5, and we're going to find b. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 4 on both sides, 1 equals the b, which is what we got when we went in reverse in the table. So, and then you plug it in and you get your 2x plus 1, y equals 2x plus 1. Alrighty, so again, that was lesson 4, writing an equation of a line when you're given 2 points. Thanks for watching.